I'm just doing it, yes.
We are back. We caught you.
Again.
Yes. Um, Before the break, I mentioned, I asked that we, let me turn on my mic, sorry about that. Before the break, I asked that we speak on image about dressing and so on and so forth. Dr. Martin, do you want to take this first, or a stab at this?
Okay, I deal with this every day, and I know it's cultural. And even in my own, raising my own kids, when my eldest was in high school, we all know the baggy pants and all the stuff that the young people wear. And so you have to have some compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want them to be out there and then they become a target because they're looked at as weird. So in my raising of my kids, I allow them one size bigger so that they can fit in with their peers. Because that pressure at school is very real,
yes, bullying.
And very, very dangerous and harmful to the egos of kids. But you have to teach them. I always tell them, so that's why like we do sometimes we have professional days, and you bring in the professionals, and so they see this is how you dress. And you can talk to my teachers about that. The way we present ourselves to the kids is how serious they're going to take it. When a parent comes into a meeting with the pajama pants, yes, they're there at the meeting, but it doesn't say I value what I'm coming to do if I can't take the time to just look decent to come into the school. And so we need to remind our young people that yes, this is what is going on in society right now, but in order for you to distinguish yourself and to be accepted in society as a whole, you do have to change your mindset on how you look.
I agree. In my case, my son went to military high school, so he didn't have that pressure of dressing as everyone did every day. But when he turned 18, it was, well, Mom, I can do this now. I'm 18. I graduated. You know, I had to make an adjustment in my own attitude, because for me it's like, no, I know what it looks like. I know you're going to be stereotyped. He didn't want to hear that. You know, he wanted to express himself. Now that he's 25, he sees the difference. He understands the difference. And he knows what it is to dress in a suit. He knows what it is to dress street. But he also knows that there are boundaries. He's much more aware of that now. But it took him some years.
How difficult is that as a parent, as a mother here in America, to instill those values and those boundaries in a young male? Actually,
it was difficult because I had the dual duty of being mom and dad. You know, here it's you raise your sons, but you raise your daughters, but you love your sons. I had to raise and love my son, but at the same time, I made a conscious effort to speak to him and instill in him things that I knew would make him a better man. I can't teach him to be a man. I could teach him to be a gentleman. And that's what I worked with. I also established a friendship with him so that he would feel comfortable coming to talk to me or comfortable expressing himself to me. It worked when his friends would come and talk with me. But it was not an easy road. You know, it wasn't always an easy road with him because he experienced things that I couldn't help him with. And he also got to a point where he wouldn't tell me certain things because he didn't want me to worry. He didn't want me to know how he might have been bullied or how he might have been picked on. He didn't need me to handle something that he felt, okay, this is not for my mom to do. You know, we have a very good relationship, but it wasn't always easy being mom and dad.
and you, Dr. Martin, you have a son.
It's even here, and my kids were raised with both parents in the home. It's kicking against the grain. Our Guyanese culture is totally different from that American culture. So I ingrained that early. Yes, you were born in America, but you're from Chinese parentage, and that white and blue don't have nothing over that green and gold. And you have to do that because like if you spend it, they're like, I'm gonna call the cops, and I would tell them, say, yeah, you can go ahead and call the cops, but call the coroner too, because when I'm done with you, I was jail.
Yes.
Still, and then even their friends knew when
Yes.
they came over to the house that this was not an American home, and the kids, they would tell, my mother crazy, so you better act right. And so you have to do that. Even the friends that my husband had, they were role models for my sons as well. So they saw an example of what a godly male looked like, and even the friends that he had that weren't in church, they were all responsible, taking care of their families. So they had that extended family looking at those men who were also role models for them. But it is hard. It's kicking against their grain because the culture in which they were raised is telling them that they have rights and they should do this. And in our Guyanese culture, like when my kids turned 18, they all knew 18 was just a number between 17 and 19. It made no difference in our home. We were grown at 21 at home, and they were grown when you were 21. And that's how I do it.
It's ironic though, because you're talking about the influences. My home became the home where his friends came. And their parents were happy for them to come to my house because they said, oh, you have structure. They're always so different when they come back over. I wasn't doing anything differently except being a parent. They knew the rules. His friends knew. The living room was your space. And if you ate anything and you made a mess, clean it up. I'm not coming out to clean up after you. And he would say, no, you can't do that. My mom's not going to do that. They knew that. But I became, a surrogate mom for them also. I'm the mom that went with them to the basketball games. I was the sports mom. Their parents were happy to let them go. Why? Because I instilled in my son what I knew and what I was raised with. It's the same reason he too spent summers in Guyana. He knew the difference. Now he can mentor young people because he's had the experience of living in Guyana and living here.
Glenda, you and Allison are part of an organization here in Brooklyn that mentors young people. You want to tell us a little bit about that and how the two of you might impart some of these values you grew up with into those young people?
Well, we're part of Family Renaissance. What I want to say, it's a part of branch off from the Seventh-day Adventist Church that maintain all of the values of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But the thing why I'm involved, and it's because of the work we do in the community with families. Working with parents. I mean, everything that we're saying and we're all agreeing on, that somehow is stems from home. Family Renaissance not only work with the children. So it's okay for you to bring a kid. They're always like, okay, where are the parents? We need to get to the root. We need to understand what's going on in home. Because there is no way you could do anything unless you go back to the roots. And if you have a plant, if you don't take care of the root, it's going to die. You could spray a leaf, you could do whatever you want, you could polish it, you could put oil, it's going to die. You go back to the root. And the root, it starts with the parents. Starts with parenting. Family Renaissance, that's the goal. Work with parents, community-based, work within the community to help families to become better. Because as you and I both know, as families become better, we become a better community. I mean, one of the things that I just admire going all to the West Coast and hanging with Beverley Layne family, I'm saying, it's one thing for us to talk about how we were raised in Guyana, but if you're not part of a community that has the same values, then it's just a waste of time. And I saw that when I went to California to this Beverly. They're a part of a community. So when you're there, you're a part of a church community, you're a part of a different family community. In that way, you're bringing that same village mentality from from Guyana, and you're creating that, which sometimes is not very, not easy to do.
We actually got involved with Family Renaissance because of another classmate from the same high school we went to. So we've been doing that with work with them for several years. Glenda has even spearheaded some of the retreats for the young people that we've had, where we've had workshops for them to teach them etiquette, to teach them history, to teach them about maneuvering in society. And it's something we support 100% and we agree with.
What is a typical area of focus when the three of you get together and are discussing family values, etiquette? What
Oh my God.
what do you guys really focus on? I'm curious.
We talk a lot about giving back.
Yes.
And right now, we're considering how more of an influence we can be. We all are passionate about the next generation. And we see the breakdown in the home. We see, for us, education was priority, and that was our key to where we are today. So we talk about that, how can we empower young people by educating them or showing them the importance of getting a good education. We talk about struggles we've had with our kids. What did you do? Glenda, the auntie, she didn't mother
She does.
of her
Oh, she's everybody's aunt. Auntie Glenda.
To raise your children. And so those are the things that we talk about. We talk about the work, we talk about the future, what goals we have. We just stop.
Even if it's in a messy closet.
But there's a, go ahead, Glenda, sorry. No, there's an old saying, we're talking about Diana, we can't ignore the idioms and proverbs we grew up with, that teeth and tongue
Must
teeth
bite.
and tongue must bite as well.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
when the three of you get together, who is the arbiter? Who's the one who says, you know what, you guys stop? Who's the one that breaks up whatever disagreement, misunderstanding? Well, and don't tell me you guys don't have that, right? I grew up with 6 sisters.
Disagreements? We don't have
Now,
no.
You don't have that? All right.
No, we have playful.
Three
We have,
Christians gonna be doing this on the air live tonight. Fine.
no, actually we've never had that. We have I know if
No, hold on, Glenda and Bev. Allison is about to tell us what we have. Explain it, Allison. I gotta hear this one. What is it you have?
we openly discuss anything that might be on our mind. Everyone will give their opinion. And we'll think about it. Maybe Glenda will say to me later, maybe I don't think you should have said that. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't have discussed it. We should, but we really don't have any need for arbitration per se. We pretty much think alike and we pretty much have the same values. So
The two of you think alike.
pretty much
Uh-huh.
most times.
on most things, we have
okay.
differences of opinions. But I don't think we've had knockdown drag-outs or
I
things
wasn't
like that.
thinking
No,
that.
I'm being facetious there, but no. no.
Yeah, I think that we're adults enough to know that, we're not in a perfect world. And
Right.
why. I think we do a lot of listening, I was
We do.
talking about something, a lot of listening.
We do.
Right? And if I call, I know she's going to listen.
How do you compare your friendships, your friendship today to when you were in high school?
I don't think much has changed. We were still getting into trouble in high school.
I don't know about you guys. I was a bookworm. I was never in trouble.
Pretty much when we get together, it's the same thing. We had a lot of fun in high school, and we have a lot of fun when we're together.
Yeah, Glenda was always the trailblazer, doing something outside of the box. And, Bev had a beautiful, innocent look, 2 beautiful pigtails and a nice smile, but she was our ringleader, I just used to jump through the windows when I didn't want to get caught running late to class.
I want to share a story.
Uh-oh.
My first day in high school,
Yeah.
we had orientation. My mom brought me to orientation. I think that mom daughter they were taking. So I met Beverly from the first day in high school. And we stayed friends. The thing I remember, and I hope Bev remember, every day Brad would bring me a red cake. A
Solara.
Every day?
Because she would make her mom send me a red cake. You remember that? If you have saved my life many days with those Solara.
That's because you were going home to Golden Grove every day. It was good.
You see, I'm sitting here thinking that if this were today, that perhaps Bev, and this is just my mind going somewhere, Bev was probably trying to fatten you up so that the guys would pay more attention to Bev. But back in those days in Guyana, that was not a concern because we born those calories out. But if it were today, I'd say, you know, it's a little suspicious that it's a little bit more than just kindness.
No, that's bad. Beverly was always like that.
You know what's funny about these two?
Did you get addicted to them? Exactly. Did you get addicted to them now, Glenda? Blame it on Bev.
And when you go to California, Bev is always feeding you. Bev makes everything. Bev cooks like back home.
Oh, really?
I mean, we all do. We all cook, but you go to Bev's house and you're going to wake up, she's making bakes and saltfish, she's making roti, she's doing, yes, Bev cooks. We don't do, it's funny, when we get together, we don't do restaurants. We cook. We cook. We don't do restaurants. We cook. Everybody cooks.
Mm.
All back for Christmas, and you have
Yes. Yes. And you go to Bev's house, even if it's a floorboard, you have a place to stand, you got a plate coming to you. Always.
True Guyanese style.
Yes.
True Guyanese style.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. You got to get in the kitchen too.
No,
You got to
guys.
get in the kitchen. You can't just, you're not
Or-
escaping, you got to get in the kitchen. Yes. You got to, yes. Mm-hmm.
Sound like my sister Roxanne. Her friends always have to participate in helping her out. The three of you have, in some ways, taught people, and you still teach people, and interacted with various age groups of Guyanese. From those interactions, do you see much significant differences in the values held by the older versus the younger one?
Yes, I do.
Mhm.
The older ones, some of them still tend to hold on to the old values, and there are sometimes differences in allowing the younger to impart something new. It can be a help and it can be a hindrance, because as much as we need to retain and keep our cultural identity, there is room for some changes that might improve on something, and that may also bring more of our younger people into the folds that we want to retain. You're only as good as much as you're learned, and a man who doesn't know his past is doomed to repeat his history. So I respect a lot of our elders, I respect a lot of the stalwarts in our community, but there is need for times and tempering in some of their principles to make adjustments for some of the younger folks who we'd like to carry on our legacy.
I would agree with Allison. You have to have a blending of the old and the new. When our parents grew up, we stayed with the one job for 30 years and we retired. I remember when we talked about going out on our own in business. For my mom, that was hard because businesses fail, but she is used to that 9 to 5, this was sure. And for our generation, we take a bit of risk, and because that's just who we are. And in the generation after us, they take even greater risk. So we do have to have that blended where we give them that foundation, but then we first allow them to use their wings and to soar.
I have a friend who was just telling me his son is 30 years old.
Mhm.
He paid for him to go to school at NYU. At NYU, he was paying for him to live in an apartment. He said, I live in New Jersey and I'm paying Con Ed and I'm paying the phone bill. Only to find out his son says, I'm not going to be a slave to my job. He has his own business. I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to take that over. I'm not going to be a slave to that. I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. Do you know what that young man was doing? That young man took that apartment that his parents was paying a rent on and paying the utilities on and made it an Airbnb and was interviewing doctors and professionals coming from all over the world to go to conferences in New York, interviewing them and charging them $1,800 a week to stay in his apartment. He moved back home. His father said, no, you have to go. Because if you're making that money, but he said, I'm not being disrespectful, Dad, but I'm not going to be a slave to my job. I'm going to make my money. And he's doing this at age 30. What he has is not what his dad had at 30, although they've made a business and made something of themselves. So the mentality is different.
And so we must allow for that.
Yes.
What about you, Bev? Sorry, Glenda, you were going to say something.
Oh no, I agree with them. You know, I mean, I think we laid the groundwork as elders and even the ones that came before us. I think it's time for us to pass the baton. But in order to do that, we have to be open and be able to listen and just, not to always, just shut them down and shut them out. Be open and still guide them. I think I think before we pass the baton, we need to have, just be open to what they have to do. Because they seem very different to us. Like, for example, when we were growing up, my parents had a problem with music.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is their generation. Sometimes, I was driving my niece and nephew around and go out to the music. And I'm like, okay, you can listen to that music for about an hour, but I'm going to need some adult time. But I'm not going to listen to it. And sometimes funny. I get to one, the next day I'm humming. I'm like, but I'm banging my head like, oh, wait a minute, that's something from yesterday. That's not to get out of love. Some of the power to understand that their time not to shut it down. And it also allows you to get to know what you're doing.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
Well,
so you're shutting out. You don't know what you're listening to. You don't know what you're watching. I mean, that's cool, but like, take a movie. Let's see what's going on. You get to hear.
Yes.
You get to feel. Very important for us to do that. And not, oh no, your music stops. And you know it does, but you need to tell them that. It's their era. Let me play.
Yeah. Gone are the days. Yeah.
And that is so important for parents,
Right.
not only to remember. In order for you to connect with your kids, you got to be a little involved with what they're involved with,
Yes.
even though you may not like it. When you get away from them, then you can talk about how your head hurts or whatever. But most times they would say, our parents are so ancient. We are ancient because we're not connecting with what our younger generation is involved with. So I would speak to parents to say, cut them some slack, listen to the copy music as I call it. I can't get into rap yet and I probably would never, but I would listen to it because if they say, Mom, this is a good song, maybe don't understand half of what the rapper is saying, but I like the beat that I would share.
Yeah. I did.
To connect with that generation,
Yes.
and so you are involved in their life.
A benefit for me in that.
It's funny to tell you. Yesterday, I taught a class yesterday, and I was fixing my ponytail, and I did it in class, and I said, oh, my hair is on fleek. And I have a young student in my class who burst out laughing. She was like, wait a minute, she knows that word.
Yes.
I know on fleek.
Yes.
I just made a connection, like, oh, she knows that word. Everything, but that was so very important to me to connect. And connection to me, I'm Greek. I love it. I thought I was.
It's been good for me. it's been good for me as with my son, because there are times I'm out and I don't know it, but I may hear someone saying, "Hey, mom, how you doing?" Okay, are you talking to me? I look around and it's one of my son's friends. One of the many kids that came through my house that I took out on the weekends doing things, because I made a deal with my son growing up. Pick a day. One day was yours. Every Friday after school, I took him out to dinner because I wanted him to grasp what it was to have etiquette outside and etiquette at home, how to eat in a restaurant. But Saturday or Sunday belonged to him. Of course, he picked Saturday. So on Saturday, I'm leaving my house with 6, 7, 8 young men behind me. And people, people look at our kids and people see one woman with all these kids, but I never had a problem. I had people on the train tell me, "It is so nice to see all these young men with you and you've got them controlled." But I didn't yell at them. I didn't scream at them. I just told them this: "You're coming with me. If you do anything you're not supposed to do, I'm going to pretend I don't know you. Make sure you have your own fare to get home, because if I have to, I will leave you." They never misbehaved with me. They never were untoward. And now many of those young men, they will see me, they see my husband, and they're, "Hey, Mike, hey, mom," and I have to look around. I have to look up to many of these kids today. But it made a difference understanding where they were coming from, what they were doing, what they liked. And even if I had to tell them I didn't like it, at least I listened before I said I don't like it.
But time has really crept up on us. I mean, an hour just seems so short, with such an interesting and enlightening conversation. But one last question before we go. Of all the problems and issues are facing young people, name one, each of you, that is close to your heart or closest to your heart. Alice, you want to go first?
Education and mentorship.
Dr. Martin?
I would have to say family values and role models.
And Glenda?
I'm going to think outside the box.
What is that?
And I'm going to go right outside the box.
Okay.
But the kids, especially our young men, not being able to survive out there in their own skin as black men, police brutality, just things that they don't know how to handle. And I think it's so painful that, they don't know where to go for answers, when they, and I'll tell you why I said that. I took my nephew, Selma. I remember after Selma, they were very quiet, and afterwards they looked at me and they said, "Auntie, that really happened. It was real." To look at their faces, and I don't have an answer, because remember, they're living in an era where the things that they saw in Selma is happening again, and it's one of the things that we need to get it together really fast, because we need to have answers for our children. And it's something that pains me that, our young men have to worry about, just walking the street. And just because of the color of their skin could just never come home. So for me, we have answers, and we need to have them like tomorrow. We need to find answers and have it tomorrow, so that we can find a way to protect our young men. For me, that's my, that's my passion right now.
Thank you. Thank each and every one of you.
Thank you
for joining us this evening. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Anytime.
when we get our next project rolling, we'll let you know.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Talk to you girls soon.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Good night.
Okay. Bye-bye. We're going to be on the phone tonight. We're going to be on the phone tonight. Yes. We're going to have a...